Lift up your voice, 'cause you got lying inside of those lungs. Get up and praise the Lord. Come on, my soul, don't you get shy on me. Lift up your voice, 'cause you got lying inside of those lungs. Get up and praise the Lord. So I'll throw up my hands, praise you again and again. 'Cause all that I have is a hallelujah, hallelujah.
Murphy, and I am the online campus pastor for the Valley Troy. As we head into a whole new year, I want to encourage you to do a few things that are going to make this year one of the best. The first is like the Valley Troy page. You can simply click the thumbs up on the main page and you will get notified then every time we go live. Not just on Sundays, but any other time throughout the week that we go live. The second thing I want you to do this morning is share. Why do we share? Well, we all know what social media is like. We all have faced some of those dark posts or those posts that frustrate us. By sharing posts like this message today, as well as things that we post throughout the week, you are spreading hope and encouragement in places that feel very dark and lonely. Don't we all want that, especially as we enter into a new year? So how do you share? Well, the first thing you need to do is click the little arrow at the bottom of your screen. By clicking the arrow at the bottom of your screen, you can either share directly to your story, you can share directly to your page, or you can share directly to someone specific that needs hope and encouragement today. So if you share this morning's message, why don't you comment below and let our hosts know that you're sharing. Oh, that's it. There are hosts that are here with you this morning, and they love to hear from you. In fact, I'm one of them, and I enjoy when you all jump on and let me know where you're watching from, what your thoughts are, or even if you need prayer. So don't forget to let your host know that you're watching. The last thing I want you to know this morning is this. We worship here at the Valley Troy through song, so sing along. We also worship through reading the Word. You can join us digitally through a Bible app, through the physical Bible, or if you don't have either one of those, don't worry. We put the words on the screen. We also worship through teaching of the Word. And that's what we're going to do this morning. So join me as we worship in music, worship through reading the Word, and worship through the teaching of the Word. Have a great day, and I'll see you in a little bit.
I'm a Steelers fan. I'm excited for a Bengals win. We are excited, and we're so excited. excited you're here. We're also excited because the Miami East Drumline is here to start out service today. So let's give them a big Valley welcome. Miami East Drumline. Here at the Valley, we stick together in the losses, we hang together in the trenches, and we celebrate the victories together. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to celebrate the victories, not just victories that happen on the field, but victories that happen in our lives and in the lives of the church because of an almighty, powerful God. So let's start out this football Sunday right with some worship. And Dave and the band, let's go ahead and raise our voices.
Resurrection power, still the miracle that I just can't get over. My name is registered in heaven. My name is heaven and heaven. This is my testimony from death to life. The grace rewrote my story. I'll testify by Jesus Christ the righteous. I'm justified. This is my testimony. This is my testimony. Come together, sons and daughters. the blood and washed in water. Sing the praises of the Spirit, Son, and Father. Our God will finish what He started. Our God will finish what He started. This is my testimony from death to life. 'Cause grace rewrote my story. I'll testify by Jesus Christ the righteous. I'm justified. This is my testimony. This is my testimony. If I'm not dead, you're not done. Greater things are still to come. Oh, I believe. If I'm not dead, you're not done. Greater things are still to come. Oh, I believe. If I'm not dead, you're not done. Greater things are still to come. Oh, I believe. If I'm not dead, you're not done. Greater things are still to come. Oh, I believe. This is my testimony from death to life. 'Cause grace rewrote my story. I'll testify by Jesus Christ the righteous. I'm justified. This is my testimony. This is my testimony. Oh.
How many of you are thankful to be in the house of the Lord this morning? Can I get an amen in the house? worship the God who was. We worship the God who is. We worship the God who evermore will be. He opened the prison doors. He parted the raging sea. My God, He holds the victory. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. And we won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. Oh, oh, oh. We shout out your praise. We sing to the God who heals. We sing to the God who saves. We sing to the God who always makes a way. 'Cause He hung up on that cross and He rose up from that grave. My God, still rolling stones away. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. And we won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. We were the beggars, now we're royalty. We were the prisoners, now we're running free. We are forgiven, accepted, redeemed by His grace. Let the house of the Lord sing praise. We were the beggars, now we're royalty. We were the of the Lord sing praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. And we won't be quiet. We're gonna shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. We won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. Amen.
Well, I searched the world, but it couldn't fill me. A man's empty praise and treasures that fade are never enough. And then you came along and put me back together. And every desire is now satisfied here in your love. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing is better than you. I'm not afraid to show you my weakness, my failures and flaws. Lord, you've seen them all, and you still call me friend. 'Cause the God of the mountain, yeah, He's the God of the valley, amen. And there's not a place your mercy and grace won't find me again. Oh, there's nothing better than you, Amen. Let's give it up for this great band. This is just our second week playing together. You may be seated, and will you pray with me? Heavenly Father, thank you, Lord, for this opportunity to congregate in this space. We invite the Holy Spirit to fill and flow through each and every one of us and anoint us with the blessing of perfect peace that comes with your presence and the thought of you and your spoken word. And Lord, let that ring out through everyone in this room and everyone's family and their extended families. And Lord, we just thank you and give you praise. Before I say amen, though, Lord, on this day, in this fertile plain that you've made called Ohio, on this day, you may experience a higher than normal call volume. And we just ask that in whatever form these exaltations and calls out to you or come in, that you would extend your grace and your mercy. Amen.
It's the first time I ever heard hooday after a prayer. I don't know what that translates into the Greek, but, awesome. Wonderful. Yeah, I think God's never heard so many prayers from the state of Ohio. My name is Mark. I'm one of the pastors here. It's great to have you with us today for Football Sunday. Hopefully you've been able to get some nachos and cheese and hot dogs. And by the way, eat as many as you can before you leave, okay? So take them home, fill up the car, whatever you need to do. Hey, in the front of the seat in front of you in the back pocket is this connection card. Okay, we talk about it every week. And if you're online, you're going to have digital connection cards with your host. But and it's very important every week because on the back is where we have prayer requests. On the back is where we have next step opportunities. And today there is an even bigger reason, or just as big a reason, why you need to fill this out, because this is going to be what we use for the drawings for our giveaways later. Okay, so we have a bunch of different giveaways, including that grill over there. And so if you're new with us, feel free to fill out as much or as little as you feel comfortable. If you've been attending here and you think we already have your info, you can just put your name. But we're going to have a coffee break in just a few moments. And during that time, we're going to have a basket sitting up here, and you can just drop them off during that. Okay, and then shortly thereafter, I'll have some giveaways. And at the end of the service, we'll have the big grand prize giveaway of the grill. Other things that are going on here, this is a huge answer to prayer. Our vision around the Valley Church is multiple expressions of the Valley Church. And so that's why this Troy exists. That's why we have a Piqua. We have actually a campground in Bell Fountain where we stream the service into camping season. We have online campuses. And so we've been praying for a while about a Sydney campus. And to start a Sydney campus, we need a leader. And so I'm really excited to announce that just this past week, we extended an invitation to Cindy Porter to be the next campus pastor there. And she said yes. And so her and her husband, Wayne, will be moving to this area in March. That doesn't mean the church is starting in March. In fact, it will take a good year and a half to build the launch team and all those kind of things that go into starting a church that we kind of well know, at least Jess and I do from that standpoint, and some of you who are on the original launch team for here. Would you share that as, first of all, God answering that prayer? Second of all, some of you maybe live in Sydney. Some of you maybe live in Piqua. And so it's not too early to start praying about what God's asking you to do. We want to continue to be a sending church. And so we'll be talking about it a lot over the next year and a half, but just wanted to celebrate that as we are celebrating a lot of other things today too. One thing that we're big on here at the Valley Church is families. 1/3 of our church every Sunday is 18 and under. Today's no exception to that. And so we try to do a lot of different things for families, some very meaningful, some very just fun. And this is a really fun one. It's going to be a skate night, Piqua Skate Night. That's coming up on February 27th. It will be coming very shortly. You can see it there. It's wanting not to stay there. I think it's on a timer thing, so it just fights us right now. But that's going on, so you can just show up. It's free. We're covering the cost for that. If you want to bring your own skates, then just show up with them. If you do need to rent them, that's $3. But invite people, show up there on February 27th from 6 to 8 at Piqua Skate. Host a hunt. Host a hunt this year for Easter. We're going to do something unique and cool, that we are asking families to host their own Easter egg hunts at their house and invite their neighbors. You all live in different areas. You have all different connections, whether you live here in Troy or in Piqua or West Milton or, Look at the map over there. Covington, Pleasant Hill, Casstown. That's why we have it there, just so I can remember our geographics. And so if you're interested in hosting a hunt, you can mark that on the back of the connection card. Just write host a hunt. And we'll be talking a lot about that. But of course, Easter is not too far away. And this is a really cool outreach opportunity that we designed this year for you to invite your neighbors to be part of that. And then hopefully even invite them here on Easter Sunday or for the Easter series. The last thing is that we are huge on serving our community. We believe that if you're a follower of Christ, it is not optional to help those who are hurting. And the Bible's very clear about that. And as a church, it's not optional to be on mission in our community. And so this month, we are partnering with the Troy Rec and their weekend bags. This church actually started at the Troy Rec 3 years ago. So we have a long-standing connection there. Kelly and her family attend here. And so you saw the black container out front as you came in today, and it's overflowing because you are a church of generosity. You're a church that just loves people. And so we're collecting for another week for that. Flood that, fill it up again, because here's the deal. Those bags go to teenagers on Friday to take home over the weekend filled with food because of food insecurity issues in their own home. And we just don't think it's acceptable for a kid not to be able to eat over the weekend. And we know there's hard times going on, and we have a responsibility, not an optional, but a responsibility to help those. So again, thank you for your generosity. If you're with us online and live around us, you can participate in that too, and we'd love to have you a part of that. All right, so here's what we're going to do today. We're going to have coffee break. And so if you're new with us, this is something we do every so often, and it's very straightforward. This is a chance to refuel with coffee. There'll be some coffee pumpers in the back. There's some out there. But the special thing is going to be this. Two things, actually. Number one, you're going to drop off what? Oh, look, they even have them. This is like the A-plus crowd, okay? And so you can drop them off here. And then the other special thing is the band is going to be singing a song, or performing a song that deals with this theme of today. And it's by Hank Williams Jr., right? I got it right? Okay. All right. I've been practicing all morning to remember that. Okay. Hank Williams Jr., I know it more as the Monday Night Football theme song. BJ has rewritten that years ago. He rewrote it to fit football and church and all that kind of life. So the band's going to play that, mingle, meet someone new, say hi, drop the cards off, and then in a few minutes we'll continue the service.
Are you ready for some football and a Sunday morning party? Yeah, what's going down today? It's time to get this thing started. We got the food, we got fun, and a band on stage. Now all my rowdy friends are at the Valley today. It's a big Sunday morning, we're ready to go. It's the music and the word football show. The coffee's hot and there's new friends to meet. We got Jesus in the end zone's aboard the seat. We're gonna have fun in a Super Bowl way. All my rowdy friends are at the Valley today. Are you ready for some football and a Sunday morning party? Yeah, what's going down today? It's time to get this thing started. We got some food, we got fun, and a band on stage. All my rowdy friends are at the Valley today. Friends are at the Valley today. Sunday morning. friends are at the Valley today.
I love it. I love it. Thanks, BJ Band. Thank you so, so much. So we have some giveaways, all right? And I don't want to leave anyone out. So, yep, refuel, coffee, nachos, popcorn. If you're with us online, go. Hopefully you have some good snacks at your house. All right, so our first giveaway. Yeah, I want to show that. Yeah, I want to show. Anytime I can hold this many cheese balls, it's a good day, okay? So in case you didn't get enough healthy food today, we have more for you, okay? And in addition to that, we have a nice Buffalo Wild Wings gift card on top. So the lucky winner, now some of you don't want to win this because you're like, then I won't win the grill, you know, but this is still a good prize. The winner today is Michelle Schaefer. Michelle. Very good. Thank you. Okay, what else do we have here, Jessica, as they're trickling in here? So this is, yep, a little heavy. So, oh, wow, this is awesome. Okay, so we have some Ohio State coffee mug, or some mugs. There are Reese's cups. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I forget. I'm from Central PA, so we say, like, yeah, Penn State, and then we just lose a lot to you guys. We taunt ourselves because we stay close through 3.5 quarters. But there's beef jerky, Slim Jims, pretty much, again, all-American diet here. Eat this, you'll live to be 100, okay? So, and a gift card in there. I think I saw a gift card too. So, winner for that is Hannah Bridge. Hannah, congratulations, Hannah. You're going to have a lot of friends today, Hannah. All right, and then I need teenagers to stand up. Thank you. If you're teenagers, please stand up. We have some giveaways for you. Well, you're not. That eliminated you, sir. Okay. If the jersey wasn't enough. No, just teasing. So we have football. This is a Taco Bell. Any Taco Bell fans out there? Okay. Young man, I see that there, so I'm going to. Oh, okay. Take that. How was that throw? Right there. Yeah. I just need that competition. Just tell me I can't, and it will happen. Okay. This one, Cold Stone. So any Cold Stone, okay. I just want to see you guys wrestle over that. If there's any blood, that's your parents' responsibility. Xbox, any Xbox aficionado, like, there's the adults' hands going up, okay? So I'm gonna go right here in that area, okay? And then this is our final, yep, AMC, so movies, okay? All right, so this young man right there, this is yours. There, it's a soft one, okay? All right. And if you didn't win, there's tons of food out there. Eat as much as you can. All right. Well, we are very, very blessed and excited today to have Bobby Carpenter with us. He'll share some of his college story at NFL and most importantly, his faith journey. First service was very powerful. I know it spoke to myself and to all our audience, and I know in particular to our young folks who are in here, just to hear what it's like to live that life, but then also to how the Lord intersected into that. And so at this time, would you invite and give a big Valley Church welcome to Bobby Carpenter, please? This is the rowdy crowd, Bob. You know, they're wide awake. They had a lot of coffee this morning, so I can, Well, thanks for coming. Great to have you with us today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you. This is it's a later service, so these are the folks that stay out late and probably party a little more on Saturday night, right?
Yeah, this is your rowdy crowd. Okay, so man, We just got to watch them a little bit. But so share a little bit about, where do you live, a little bit of your story. How'd you get involved in football? And if anyone's knows him at all, there was something kind of in his life and your family and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so, going back, the whole story here, it's great to be in Troy. I say this, my dad played in the NFL for 10 years, played at Miami, Ohio, and one of his best friends in life there was Randy Walker, who was a Troy native who passed away, unfortunately, all too early. But football has been a big part of my life for a long time. A little background information. I'm from Lancaster, Ohio. Both of my parents are from there. My mom's one of 7. My dad's one of 5. Like very blue-collar, working-class families. Never really. Sports were kind of big, but none of my grandparents ever played sports really in school and any structured, high level. And that was kind of my dad's ability. He's like, if I was going to get to college somehow, it was going to be through football. And so he kind of grew that way and ended up going to Miami, Ohio. And then when he got done playing in the NFL, moved back to Lancaster and coached at New Lex for 4 years, and then in Lancaster for another 27, I believe. So it's been a long time. He just retired, and he didn't let me play football until I was 13 years old. I have 3 brothers. I'm the oldest. He let them play when they were in 6th. He wouldn't let me play until I was in 7th grade. And so that was like, that was this whole deal. And so people always ask me that now, especially with safety and all these other things. When should I start my kid playing football? I'm like, well, my kids play. I let my son start playing in 4th, and we'll figure out, I got get into my family a little bit here in a minute, but I'm like, it's the right time is the right time for you. And so he didn't let me play till I was 13, and I played basketball, I swam, played a lot of soccer and stuff growing up, and just being active, playing sports. And he was my coach in 7th grade. He coached at junior high for 2 years before he got the head job at Lancaster. And I was probably the worst 7th grade football player you could imagine. I was not good. It was a very humbling experience for me because I'd been pretty talented at a lot of other stuff, but I was skinny. I didn't develop really early. And so their kids, had beards in junior high, and that was not me by any stretch. So got beat around. And I've talked to my dad a little bit about this, just navigating, like coaching your kids, because I'll coach my kids in some of their sports. And, how did handling when it's like I wasn't good at all. So like trying to handle that and, coaching your kids and the difficulties, as anybody in here who has done that can probably attest to, but understanding like it's an important part of their growth in life and the competitive element, getting them outside. So getting a chance to do that. So I started playing when I was 13 years old. You go through ultimately, play at Ohio State in the NFL, but a little more. I'm married. I have 4 kids. My lovely wife Courtney. My oldest son RJ is sitting over there. He's 12. He's in 6th. We got an 11-year-old girl, 8-year-old boy, and a 5-year-old boy as well. And so football has been such a huge part of my life. And, I know that there's a lot of things that have been associated with it now, and obviously head trauma and different things. But I think that there's a lot of things you can learn in sports, and especially for young men, that you can learn in the principles of teamwork, sacrifice, selflessness, toughness, all these characteristics that have helped sculpt men for generations. And really the military did that for a long time. And really the only 2 areas left that kind of happens is in the military and in football, where it can and in sports can do those things and develop that. And we're in a society now where we need young men to be as strong and as vocal and as passionate leaders and the right type of men as possible. And I think that's one of the elements to be able to do that. And so coaching youth sports and being involved in that is critical in my life, and it helped kind of shape me into who I am, and all the experiences and everything that I have, I can attribute to that. So I'm a huge proponent of getting kids involved in something early on and getting them going there. So that's a long, meandering answer to a quick question.
So I grew up, your dad played in the NFL. We'll talk off the record. I just want to know what it's like to play for Bill Parcells, because your dad did and that. But so you had a chance to play at the collegiate level, obviously recruited by numerous schools. So the question is, what made you choose Ohio State? And you end up there, and as a freshman, you play on a pretty decent team that I don't think decided to lose any games that year. So.
Yeah, and it worked out pretty well. And so growing up, my dad played in Miami, Ohio. My mom went to Ohio State, but I wouldn't say that we were like the biggest Ohio State passionate house you're going to find. We watched them, but my dad had a lot of friends who were into coaching. Randy Walker was at Miami. He was at Northwestern then, and a lot of other guys from some of their teams and guys he played with in the NFL who were coaching in college. And so we kind of watched everyone, and I liked Ohio State, but it wasn't like there was this overwhelming pressure that I was getting from home to attend there. And so we took a lot of visits, went around, and I tried to look at this objectively and make the best decision that I ultimately could. So my dad and I, we sat down and looked at a bunch of different criteria from academics, head coach, position coach, location, offerings at the school, a chance to play early, all these different things. I don't know, it was probably like 10, 12, 14 different criteria. And so I ended up taking my final 4 visits to Northwestern, Ohio State, North Carolina, and Michigan State. And they all had something different to offer. And so we go through there, and my dad fills out, and he's like, well, rank each one of them on these criteria 1 to 4 of how they fit it. So I do that, and I'm going through trying to figure it out, and there's pros and cons to each one. And I get done with it, and I'm like trying to add it up as I'm going, like trying to see, but not really. And so as soon as I get done, my dad snatches the paper away from me. And he looks at me, he's like, well, where do you want to go? And I'm like, well, I thought that was the purpose of the test, like fill this out. It's like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I don't know. Well, what are you good at? Okay, let's figure this out. And then they spit out an image. Hey, you should do this. These are things you like, and this is where you're good at. That's where that intersection happens. And ultimately, that is how it kind of works. So he pulls it away, and he's like, hey, where do you want to go? And I'm like, I don't know. He's like, I don't care. Forget about the test for a minute. Where do you want to go? I'm like, it's tough. I was avoiding the decision. I waited till a week before signing day, not because I wanted to make a big deal about it, but because I literally just was afraid to make the wrong choice. Like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like, I don't know. I was 18. Well, make a choice for the rest of your life. Don't make the wrong one. And that's kind of how I felt. I was just paralyzed by the fear of, like, do I choose the wrong school? What could ultimately happen? And wrong school meaning football, academics, all these different things. And it's like went through it in my head and kind of, I want to be close to home. And there was a big part of that. And not because I was homesick, but I had 3 younger brothers who I wanted to be able to watch their games and be involved with. Wanted my parents to be able to come and watch my games. And I talked to Stanford and some other schools, my dad, and even Penn State, to tell you the truth. And we went over there. We drove to Happy Valley, and my dad looked at me. He's like, "Listen, this is a great place." We talked to Joe Pa and everything, and he's like, "We can probably only go to maybe 1 or 2 games a year here. We'll go to the Columbus game." He's like, "But it's 7 hours." He's like, "You got that coach, your brothers." He's like, "So just don't do it for us, but just be cognizant of what your expectations." Where some parents they Raven, it's great. They're like, we never missed any of our kids' games at Ohio State. And my parents, they never missed a game that they actually could attend. Like, I had 3 younger brothers who played too. And so I'm like, probably Ohio State. He's like, all right. And he had added it up. He's like, good. The sheet said Ohio State. And I fast forward a couple years because I told this story to at another group, and someone goes, what would they have, did he tell you what his plan was if it wasn't Ohio State that you would have said? I'm like, or they didn't align? I'm like, no. And I asked him, he's like, well, I thought it was going to be Ohio State. And when I saw it was that on the sheet, I knew I was probably pretty good, but I didn't really think through it that far to figure out the ending of it. And so I end up there, and it was great. We had a great recruiting class. Quinn Pitcock, who's from Piqua, was part of it. Awesome dude. A.J. Hawk, Centerville native, Mick Mangold, a lot of people from the 937 area here, and became great friends. And I met my wife there. Everything, the relationships and the connections and all the stuff that has been good for me in my life has really been the fruit of that decision to attend Ohio State. And so, freshman year we get there, and it's awful. It's hard. And anybody that's played college athletics, it's hard. Your freshman year in football, my dad told me this. He's like, you're going to want to transfer every day. He's like, you're going to want to quit all the time. He goes, you want to quit? And I'm about a week into training camp. I call him, like, this is awful. Like, I may not be for me. He's like, all right, well, here's the good news. He goes, you get 2 weeks on the couch, and then you're out. He's like, I went to Miami, Ohio. He's like, I didn't have a second best option. So I didn't have any other job. He's like, I'm coming back to work at the glass plant in Anchor Hockey in Lancaster. He's like, I couldn't have a family business or any of this. He's like, I'm not giving you an out to quit just because it's hard. So push through all that, grind through the season, still not playing. It's whatever. I'm talking to him. It sucks. This is awful. Stinks. I'm not in a good frame of mind. Like, he's counseling me every week. And I have great friends. We're winning games. Like, that's the thing. We're winning a lot of games, but you want to play. You go from being the star in high school. Everybody that goes to play at these big-time schools, they were the star. And then you're not playing, and it's hard, and the coaches are yelling at you. You got class. You got all this stuff. You're getting pulled in a million different directions. And I'm having a conversation one day. He's like, listen, you're playing like 10 to 15 plays. Like, they've got AJ. He's playing too at linebacker. We're playing a couple other freshmen on defense. He's like, you're like top 10 in the country, like 5th in the country right now. You're winning games, not by a lot either, if any of you remember that season. Our offense wasn't anything to write home about. He's like, so defensively, you have to be really good. He's like, they're not going to put you and AJ out there or Nate Sal. Like, they're going to play you guys some, but the last thing the seniors want to look around is like, we got 3 or 4 freshmen on the field, and one of you guys screws something up and costs them the game. He's like, they're going to be yelling at the coaches. Why'd you put him in there? He didn't deserve it. He shouldn't have been in. He's like, so just understand it. We go through the season, and it helps a little more when you're winning and win a national championship, and it's all well and good. But it was a tough, trying season. And then as things progress, it gets a little better, and things, begin to work out better for us. But it's hard. It is hard. And he told me that, and he prepared me for it. But it was a fun year that first year. Probably the 3rd best team I was on while I was at Ohio State. You need some luck. I thought we were going to win a national championship every year. I'm like, man, it's going to be easy. And you don't get some of the breaks. You don't get some of the bounces. And, ironically, I look back at my tenure at Ohio State now, and I remember a lot more about the losses that we had. One bad one to Penn State in 05 over there, by the way. But those are the games that I vividly remember. And that's probably one of the worst parts of the human condition is we tend to remember our fails a lot more than our greatest successes.
Yeah. You end up having a great college career. And before I ask him next question, by the way, if we have time at the end, we're going to take some of your questions. And so be thinking, if you have any questions you'd like to ask, we want to try to give you a few moments to do that. So you have a great college career, ends up so strong that you end up being a first-round pick in the NFL with the Cowboys. There are some Cowboy fans here today, so they'll probably want to say hi to you. Share a little bit, so just for time's sake and that, a couple cool things in the NFL. You ended up playing for a handful of different teams, and Detroit Lions were one, and the quarterback of the Detroit Lions is a guy who probably a lot of these people are not going to be hoping has a good game tonight. Matthew Stafford was the quarterback of the Lions when you were there. And then also when you were at the Cowboys, Tony Romo, quarterback. Now, a lot of the younger folks think he's just a guy who talks a lot on TV. But he actually was a pretty good quarterback in the day, is one of your best friends. And so maybe hit on a couple of those relationships or a little bit about the NFL experience.
Yeah, so started get drafted to Dallas. Tony, good friend of mine. You go to Detroit, Stafford, great dude. And him and Kelly are phenomenal people. And I encourage anybody to kind of look through their story and kind of understand it. And, she had brain cancer. They have 4 beautiful girls. And, Matt's a great guy. He was part of our Bible studies up in Detroit. Good man, good husband. And so I see them, they win. I wanted them to win a couple weeks ago. I wanted Cincinnati to win with Joe. My brother played at Ohio University. Joe's dad, Jim, was his D coordinator there. And this position coach as well. So I've known Joe since he was in high school and got to watch him grow through Ohio State and then ultimately leaving and go to LSU and everything. And so, I wanted both those guys to win. I'm like, I didn't think they both would. And then they ultimately get there and I'm like, well, at least one guy I know is going to be winning. I'm like, so I'm going to be happy and sad for one of them on the same day. And so it's the tough part about sports, but Matt's a great guy. Like his wife's battle with cancer and brain tumor, it's insane. With everything that they dealt with. And then Tony as well, like a good friend in Dallas. And he was, my wife and I were both in his wedding with Candace. He spoke in ours. And quick story, I enjoy telling. Like, Tony's a great guy. And, he's a great talker, as anybody now knows, analyst. And he was a good friend. We met him when he was the backup quarterback, nothing special there. And, one of the things that he actually touched on when he was speaking at our wedding was, there's a lot of temptations in the NFL. We'll get into some of this, with my story and testament. But one of the things that he always, like, you and Courtney, my wife, are always together. And whenever we were doing something, she was always involved and always coming. And that helps you obviously, build a stronger relationship and keep you as a man on a straight and narrow as much as you possibly can be. But he goes up, and we had a number of speakers, for our wedding, and a lot of Bible verses. And one of my wife wanted to have, and I can't even remember the song now. It's crazy. It's been 14 years in March that we've been married. And there was a couple verses from a George Strait song, I think. And I emailed it to Tony beforehand. He's like, hey, it's good. I'll be there. We'll be great to go. And he's like, hey, I got something come up. He doesn't come to the rehearsal dinner. My wife's super laid back. She's like, yeah, it's fine. He's like, hey, I'm going to be coming in pretty hot, close to the time of the wedding. And by that, he showed up like while we were already on the altar. And my pastor's like, hey, is he going to be here? Like, yeah. So he was like one of the last speakers. And so he gets there and he's like motioning up to me as we're up there. And he's like, the paper. And I'm like, I sent it to you, man. Like, it's my wedding day. Like, I don't have it. And he's like, oh. And I see him in the back, like frantically scrolling. It's like the iPhone 1. This is 2008. And it's like, oh. And Courtney's like, she's like looking at me. And I'm like, there's no way he's finding this. Walks up. And he looks over, like, winks at me, and I'm like, this is going to be interesting. And he basically gives, like, a full-on wedding toast during the ceremony. My pastor's looking over, like, what is this? Like, but it was great, and, he weaves in spiritual elements to it. And then when he gets done, he's like, I didn't know how to wrap it up, because he's like, it's not like raise your glass. We're all sitting here in the service. And he's like, thanks. And people are like, it's a great speech, but they're like, we didn't know whether to clap or like how you end that up as well. But that's Tony. He's always been like that, and he's been a great friend and another good man and another faith-based man as well. And so as one of the things we go through this that I'll keep talking about is trying to surround yourself with good people and other good men and good human beings to help the company you keep is going to help influence you in a lot in life. And you don't really realize that until you're older, but surrounding yourself with high-quality individuals is something that I think is very important.
So let's make that transition now into the faith. Share a little bit about your faith journey. What did that look like growing up? Where did church fit into that? And then as you just into college years and into the NFL and now into life now, your journey with Christ and how that's all kind of shaped. We have a lot of young people here, a lot of young people watching too, of how did that faith foundation play such a pivotal role for you?
It's interesting. For a long time, I never really felt comfortable speaking about it because I'm a heavily flawed human being. A lot of things I've done in this world I'm not proud of, and I've never felt like I could get up there and like give my testimonies. Like I never had this epiphany where it's like Saul to Paul, where like all of a sudden change, this great man, and you never sin again. Like that's how people feel like, hey, it's not the way it works. There are temptations and things that I will battle with every day. Everybody has their own battle. Every person has their own struggle and vices, and like becoming a Christian doesn't make those things disappear. It doesn't make them go away. And so like a little background, and to start off, and it's amazing how things just kind of hit you. And I never even really used to listen to like a lot of worship music until probably 5 years ago. And now, 104.9 The River's a station in Columbus that is a Christian station. I listen to all the time. I work out to Christian music. I still listen to other stuff sometimes, but like every day, that's what I work out to at 4:15 before my radio show. And it's like time to to reorient my life and center it up. And it just, the lyrics, hit me during the second service here, the opening line, like I'd searched the world, but it couldn't fill me. In the reality of that and how powerful that statement is, and as I kind of talk about my family and everything, it'll come in, and it's a big part of it because I've got to do a lot of awesome things in this world and been very, very blessed. It's fleeting fulfillment. And it's something that, it's great at the time, but like when you're done with anything, it's gonna leave you empty inside. And so I told this story at the beginning a little bit about my dad. Both my parents grew up in Christian households, and my mom's family helped start the church that we went to in Belong. My grandma lived with us after my grandfather passed, and she had a Bible verse for everything. She was totally locked in. I mean, it was amazing. Like she was very, very strong. My dad would come to church with us a decent amount. He grew up going to church, but he would come probably, I'd say 20, 25% of the time. And, and he was, not that he wasn't a believer, but he's like, I didn't like structure religion. And, he's like, I didn't need that. And, he would pray. He was faith-based. He was our football coach. And, I mean, he was far more aggressive probably than our administration would have liked with him talking about faith and praying together with the team. I mean, it's amazing they put that rule in, like, where you're not really supposed to have, like, led prayer, I guess, with your, teachers, administrators, coaches, and he would always lead it. And I don't think he cared. And, it's just like, hey, what are they going to do, fire me? Like, that's fine. Like, we got bigger problems in this world. So, so he was always a believer, and I forgot to finish it up. Like, so my mom would always take us, and he would come here and there. And then it was unbelievable. Like, when my brothers and I were all grown, we grew to a very traditional Lutheran church, and he was meeting with our pastor, unbeknownst to my mom, to like fully become a member of the church and go through, all the whole process of doing that, like my brothers and I had all done through our confirmation and our classes. And, and it was unbelievable. Like in the mid-50s did this, and my mom, she was blown away when it happened. And now he goes to church with her every Sunday, and it's fantastic. And so to see that happen where she used to nag him about it all the time, and then to watch like the Lord work with her and work with him, like when she finally stopped, that's ultimately when like it all kind of worked out. And so like I try to look at that in my life, like how all that went. And I mean, I'll be fully honest with you, like I wish I would have been more plugged in college. Like we had Bible study, and I would meet with have chapel, and Jim Tressel was a huge part of that too, going there. And I didn't realize it at the time, like a coach who cared about your development as a whole person. You want to make sure you're a good person, good human, good player, obviously, but you're, involved in the academics, community outreach, asking questions about your spiritual life and faith-based and what, like we had to fill out these goal sheets. We're talking about like long-term spiritual goals. Like I'm 20 years old, what does that even mean? A long-term spiritual goal? Like, and we'd have to meet with him on this, and then he would ask like follow-up questions. And the goals, by the way, all had to be specific and measurable. So being a better person did not qualify as like one of your goals. Like, how do you measure that? Oh, I don't know, coach. Go to church 50 out of 52 Sundays. I don't like, I'm trying like, he's like, that's like the stuff he's like, hey, what are we going to do? How are we going to get there? And so that was a big part of it, but I wasn't as plugged in as I probably should have been. It's like, hey, I'm a believer, I'm good, but like, hey, I'm out in college, I'm playing football, trying to go to class, chasing girls, probably being not as good a human as I should have been. And like, that's the reality. Young men, you're being here, like the temptation of that and understanding what goes through, young men's minds. I get it. I was there. Every man in this room was there or will be there at some point, and trying to figure out, how you navigate this world. And it's like, all right, I'm probably not doing the things that I should be, but I'm a believer and I feel pretty good about it. And, where I'm at, unbeknownst to me, I'm failing miserably, but it had that influence in life. And as I've kind of walked through this, I've married, and by the way, I have an 11-year-old girl, as I mentioned, so like I fully aware now and cognizant, like more than ever before, of like, hey, what it means to be hopefully a good man, hopefully a good role model. But I mean, I've had struggles in my marriage. My wife and I have had big issues, most of them all caused by myself. Like, and people think like, hey, becoming a Christian, like that absolves you from any pain and heartache in this world, and you're ultimately going to be a great person. Like it's not it. It's not it. Like you're still going to have a lot of these issues. Christ is only there to help you and to walk you through them and to help orient your life and to understand, like, search the world, but it couldn't fill me. Search the world forever. Another thing my dad had told me when I was young, he's like, hey, don't ever get caught up. Like, having money is great. Working hard is great. Being successful is fantastic. Those are all biblical principles. Working hard and trying to be the very best with the blessings that God has given to you. Don't waste those, because then that is just, that's a smack in the face to the blessings that he's given. But it's like, if you try to have the quest. He's like, you'll get in the NFL and this endless pursuit of cash. Like, no, there is never enough that will make you feel comfortable. And so don't ever think that that's the reality. It's, well, I get to here, I'll get to there, and I'll get to here. Like, and it'll always be an endless pursuit. It will never fill you. It will never fill you. And so understanding that, through some of the trials and tribulations that I've had in my marriage and different things, like personal stuff over the last, 6, 7, 8 years, because marriage is hard. Young men, young women, I'm telling you, like, anybody will tell you, it's not easy, okay? You get married, it's like, oh, awesome, we're married. Now it's awesome. Like, I'm never going to have any issues. We're never going to have a fight, I mean, there's never going to be anything that arises. That's not the reality. I mean, there will be temptations. There'll be lusts and thoughts in your mind. There's always going to be stuff. And so I talk, surrounding yourself with good people, other faith-based people. And through one of the real rough times with my wife and I, it was probably 5, 6 years ago, where I really began to kind of lean in on faith more than ever before. It's like one of my good friends, two of my best friends in life, AJ Hawk and Anthony Schlegel, awesome human beings. And Anthony is one of the most grounded, faith-based. He's an ear to listen. He's always has a word for you, and it'll challenge you too, which is what you need to be able to challenge your friends when you feel like they're not in the right place. And so as I'm going through this, like, man, I need to connect with God on a deeper level. I need to connect with Christ. And it's like, he read the Bible all the time. Like, I'd read it here and there, and we do Bible studies, but never something that was committing. Like, hey, having goals, like, hey, this is a part of my life that I want to grow. I'm going to have to work at it. You have to work at your marriage. You have to work at any relationship that's important. You have to work at anything in life that matters if you want it to be good. And when you're going to have some change moments, like, change implies confrontation. It implies disruption. It's going to be uncomfortable, and it's going to be difficult sometimes. But, you kind of leaned in on me and like, okay, here's what we're going to do. We'll start in the book of James. We started just reading stuff and talking about it. And one of the verses, like, everybody's got their favorite stuff, and he's like, there'll be things that'll speak to you that, you'll get more out of it, and you'll have a connection there that maybe no one else did. And it was James 4:8, and it's kind of the thing that I've always leaned by, because as I've drifted, and if anybody tells you that, like, every day you're 100% turned on and empowered by God is lying to you as well. Like, our pastor at Rock City in Columbus, he's like, I wish I could sit here and tell you that every day I wake up and I'm living a sin-free life. It's not happening. It's done one time. He's like, and it's not happening again. Okay, especially by me or anybody. So you have to understand that. But James 4:8 is, depending on the translation or whatever, like, draw near to me and I'll draw near to you. Come to me and I will come to you. Like, you got to work. God's there to help you, but thinking like, hey, God, I pray for some things. Like, why aren't you delivering me what I've asked for? Because it's always a relationship, the child-parent relationship. Kids are always asking for things. We're always asking God for stuff. 3rd and 8, we're going to be asking for first downs tonight for Cincinnati. Like, you're going to be putting that in there. Like, and those aren't bad prayers. They're asking for anything. Huge prayers, huge ass. But you have to have the relationship, the connection. And that's what will help to walk, because it's not easy. And so at times in my life when I felt like I've drifted, it's like, hey, what am I doing to reach out to God? Hey, Lord, just save me. Throw me life rafts and pull me in. Well, they're there. You just got to grab them sometimes. And grabbing them it's the prayer, it's the connection. And so, like, going through my life, getting a chance to meet some guys like John Kitna, who came to Dallas, and he did have like kind of a Saul to Paul epiphany in life, where it's like, I didn't even know anything about God. I just knew. It's like I'd gotten in some trouble with his girlfriend, who's his wife now, and she kind of had a spiritual background and a faith-based background, and he's like, I just dove into it, and all of a sudden, he's like a transformed human. He's like, I was completely different. He's like, not to say that I don't have any troubles and any issues in life, and so I think that's something that, as you're going through this and you're young and understanding, like, I wish there were things have done differently in my life. I like to think I don't regret anything, because that's ultimately led me to where I'm at, and all the experiences that I've had, they're growth opportunities, but, drawing into the Lord and understanding, like, that's where the fulfillment. I've searched the world, but it couldn't fill me. And just, that resonated on an unbelievable level. And I feel like I cheated the first service because they didn't hit at the time. And just listening and understanding all of that, and having the people that invest into you, and meeting one of our pastors, senior pastors at our church, has been awesome. And like, people consider like Christianity as like weakness and like, oh, you're soft. No, there's not anything about it. Like, it's awesome. I saw one of the deals that you were talking about earlier. David being, David's the warrior king. Like, I loved when I was going through and reading through Samuel and reading through Kings and talking about David, who is the warrior king, expanding God's kingdom and all of the power and the blessings that he was given. And ultimately, he screwed up some stuff now too. And so you're looking at some of the most iconic people in the Bible, people that are the LeBron James, the Michael Jordan, whoever it is, who are also all highly flawed, by the way, as all humans are. But the things that you put David right in the same category with that. This dude is highly blessed. Why would you not just take the blessings that God give you, said thank you, and just do what he says? It's not how we work. It's not how we work. And so you're going to fail. You're going to have flaws, but understanding, continuing to reach in and lean into that and lean into God instead of when you're young, I broke my leg in high school. It's like, God, why did you do this to me? Why did this happen to me? Me. Why did these bad things happen? Well, hey, listen, Bob, I got a better plan than you know right now, and you're plugged into the matrix, so you can't see everything that I'm seeing up here and what is ultimately going to happen and how this is going to work and how these events are going to impact your life. And so that's the long answer to the faith journey that I'm on, that is on a roller coaster each and every day and trying to always figure it out. And it's not easy. There's nothing unbelievably phenomenal about it other than that it's mine, and that everybody has their own, and it's going to be unique to each and every person. And so it's understanding the moment, hey, the relationships, life's all about relationships. Connect yourself with good people who are going to be pouring into you. And I mentioned our one pastor, executive pastor, he's a guy who's strong, he lifts weights, and so we kind of connect, we lift weights and talk about God. It's awesome, great thing. Schlegel is the same way, but he's like, hey, one of the great things I've had in life as you get older, he's like, find 3 people that you can invest in and kind of mentor and help out. Find 3 people that can invest in you. When you're young, it's easy to find people on the top stream. When you're older, it's hard to find people that are older than you that will invest downstream into you. But that's those relationships and that mentoring aspect, and all of that through faith is something that will help build quality men that can be a wonderful husband and a great part of the community, and the fabric of what Christianity is all about with the family and the faith and a leader in the church and at home. It's a lot of responsibility. And God talks for men to be leaders and to be able to do that stuff. Well, you know what? There's a great responsibility that comes with that, to your wife, to your children, and all of those things. And my wife challenges me, and I'm glad she does. And that's a part of it, of her trying to, her element to keep me in line to where I need to be. And there's friction there, and it's good. It's not easy, but that's what the Lord calls us to do.
It's real, because that's what we are around here, that we're all in this journey, and that Christ is the only thing, like you said, that can fulfill us. I love that you talked about relationship, that it's all about a relationship. It's not about religion or rules or stained glass windows, but it's about a relationship with Christ, because that's the only thing that can transform us. I told you I'd give you a chance to ask some questions, and so we have a few minutes left, about 5 minutes or so. So does anyone have any questions that they would like to ask the Vikings fan over here?
Okay. So, who do you call first, the guy that lost or the guy that won? Because you did both.
That's a great question. Oh my. You know what? I like to give a cooling off period for both. I'd probably call the guy that lost. Celebration, it's easy in life to celebrate with your friends and their successes. It's sometimes probably a little harder to talk through the failures, and some that are on such a big stage. And so that's probably make the call to whoever it is that lost first, to try to make sure they're in a good spot, and talk it through with them a little bit, and then call my friend, whoever it is, whether it's Joe or Matt or whoever. And I know a lot of those guys on Cincinnati. There's a lot of high state guys there, to kind of celebrate with them as well. You can just talk loud. I'll repeat the question.
So I'll start off by saying I'm glad my wife's not in here, because I'm going to give her a compliment, and I want her head to be able to fit in the door on the way out. So my wife got her PhD at Ohio State while working in the athletic department, and she wrote her dissertation on athletic identity and after sports. And so, I worked in college athletics, and I want you to give some advice to younger athletes that how to leverage faith so that their identity isn't grounded in that sport. I think a lot of them, after sports are over, are kind of lost, and so use your journey for that and give them some advice.
So it's a really big thing that's talked about a lot, and in Christian circles, obviously your identity should be in Christ. And the problem is when you get so much fame and applause, and now we live in a social media era where, it's really hard to be a Christ-centered person. It's incredibly difficult. Like everything that's set up in society is set up to work against that now. Like that's real. And you need to understand that. And if you're not, you're lying to yourself about it. Like we have tried to glorify the human being to the point where you're deified, which everyone in here is highly flawed. And I'm leading the bandwagon with that. Okay, so we'd have these conversations and I was like, yeah, I'm a Christian. I got it. I play football. I'm not a football player. And you can say those things, but it's still hard for everybody to decouple when you receive the praises of man all the time. And first of all, one of my coaches told me, he's like, a pat on the back is 6 inches away from a smack in the face. So remember that. And you laugh at that, but that's true. But when you hear it all the time, and someone asked a question, I was speaking in high school, what's it like to be famous? I'm like, first of all, it's not accurate. But second of all, it's fame isn't real. It's simply a thought that human beings have about other people. It's fleeting as the morning dew. And your identity with that, it'll be gone. And I was at Ohio State, and after the games, we'd sign autographs. And you're starting to play more. And now they've kind of curtailed it. But my last game, I signed autographs for probably an hour and a half. My mom, AJ, and I were out there. We're trying to go to dinner with our families. And whenever my dad always had a great point, he goes, there will be a day where no one will care. He's like, that's the reality for everybody. He goes, I don't care whether you're Joe Montana. He's like, yeah, people still see him, but it's not like it was. Everything, you're lost. You will be forgotten. And so understanding that being a Christian, first and foremost, that all the blessings that you ultimately have too, and this is something else, the gifts that I've been blessed with, gifts that everybody, those are gifts from the Lord. Do the best you can with them. Make the most of them, grow them all that you can, but understand where they are rooted and where they came from. But it's hard when you detach from that, and ultimately when you go on in the athletic identity element, and to me it wasn't even, maybe it was identity a little bit, but it's even as much as the routine and the team element, and that's, it's a military thing too, where when people get out of the military, it's hard, where you have an infrastructure and an ecosystem that's built around you that you're existing in, and then that's gone. It's well, how do I now exist in society in a normal way? And it's very difficult, and I struggled with that, just lack of purpose. And that was because God wasn't in the center of my life. God was in my life, and it's hard to keep the bullseye on there because we have ADD as humans, and he's there, and it's oh, then there's this. Oh, we'll pull it back, and we drift away again. Pull it back, and it's constantly trying to pull back, and it's not easy. And so that's sort of my struggle as I was getting out of the NFL. And it's not that I needed the NFL. I just needed, for the fame of what it was. I just needed that identity, not identity, routine, structure of competing and working at something. And now I'm just out there floating on my own. And so that's hard, working through that. And whether you're done with high school, whether you're done in college, sports is that for a lot of people. And so I searched the world, but it couldn't fill me. Finally realizing, hey, the community I have is the community of Christ and all the connections that I have, which is a bigger team than I'll ever be on at any other point in my life. But I didn't realize that in the time, and it took me till I was probably in my early 30s to fully realize and understand that.
Great question, great answer. One more question, and then he'll be up here afterwards if you have some stuff to sign, but he'll talk with you too.
You talked about the different things you've regretted throughout your life. How would you rank the decision to rock long hair?
Okay, that's good. We had a long hair question earlier. I thought you were.
He's okay, list your top three.
I thought that's where we were going. I'm like.
We would end the service. No.
Oh my God.
Now, the funny thing is, Well, he knows this. That's how we wrapped up first service, is the hair question. And so I love it. So
It's a good one to end on, but I thought
great question, Michael.
Thought it was going to be like your top 5 regrets. And like, you guys will boo me off the stage. Like, I mean, if I put the top 5 things that I've done that I've been embarrassed and could take back in this world, I mean, it's a rough list. Let's say that. The hair, I enjoyed. The long story on the hair is the long story on the long hair. Pat Tillman, who played at Arizona State, played for the Cardinals, then decided ultimately to walk away from the NFL and serve our country. He was killed in action in Afghanistan, I believe. Yes, Afghanistan. It was, I believe, like 2003 or 4, and he had sweet long hair, and like before he joined the military. And so AJ, Anthony Schlegel, and I, Hawk, we're all like, hey, we're going to grow this as a tribute to him. And so we did that for the next couple years. And then we just kind of kept it through the NFL. Most of us, Schleg's got his cut first, and then AJ cut his. I kept mine through my whole career. I got a cut on the Buckeye Cruise the February after my final season up there. And so when I met my wife, I had hair about like this. The last real haircut I got was about 2 weeks into our relationship, and then she had to experience that. She was not a fan of it. She didn't like it. She stuck with me through all of it. My mom hated it. And so that was like my tribute to her. I'm like, all right, I cut it. I'm done. I will never do this again. It was like the Great Flood. You don't need to worry about it. It will be too much work, and hopefully I'll have hair long enough to even be enough hair to be able to grow it long. But it was good at the time. I liked it when you're young, but as I said this morning, eventually Peter Pan has to leave Neverland and had to cut the hair off and eventually grow up.
All right. Like I said, he'll be able to hang around for a little bit. I know he's going to hit the road probably, but I know some of you maybe brought some things. I know the kids want to get a chance to talk to him and that. Powerful. Thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. Appreciate it. Hey, a couple of things here, and then we'll have this nice, beautiful giveaway. We won't show the video, but we do have a couple neat things coming up in the next few weeks, and some of them are geared specifically to men. The first is this, and on March 13th, as a Sunday night from 5 to 6:45, we're going to be showing this movie, Show Me the Father. Show Me the Father. I actually watched it myself in my office last week, and was hoping then no one walked in on me in my office because my eyes were welling up most of the movie. It is powerful. There are some NFL players sharing their story. It's all about the father. In some cases, their father was absent or kind of a void there. In other cases, he was present, and they're trying to figure out how do I lead as a father or as a grandfather, and most importantly, then pointing us to the Heavenly Father, even if we've had challenges there. So. We're opening. We have a rights to it. We're gonna have it here. We'll have some popcorn, some other stuff. I'm inviting all men and their sons. Teenage sons is great. I'm gonna bring my 8-year-old. It's definitely appropriate. Now, whether he can make it through 90 minutes, we'll see. We'll just sugar him up and go for it. But it's definitely incredible for teenage boys and their dads. So we'll be talking about that. There is a video. We don't have time to show today, but we'll put it out there on social media. I'll probably show it even here next week. We do have a men's life group that's been meeting for a while, and they're going to actually, in the next few weeks, start a new book called Man in the Mirror. And I myself have gone through that study over the years. It is powerful. Talking about some of the things Bobby talked about, just things that men deal with, things that we want to be victorious in. That this is a fantastic book from parenting to being a husband to anger to you name it. It's one of those that sold millions, and many millions and millions of men have gone through it. So that's that Thursday morning group, if that works with your schedule. Finally, we're going to do a 2-week series starting next week called Ultimate Warrior. And no, it's not about the wrestler in the 80s and 90s. That shows my time frame. But it's about what it means to be a warrior, not just for men and women. What's it mean to be a warrior? We're going to look at the life of David. We're also going to look at Nehemiah over this, just a mini series over the next 2 weeks. So I encourage you to come back, invite some other people to join with you. All right. So you didn't leave, not because I was still talking, but you didn't leave because we still have one final giveaway. Bring it on out, Jessica. Jessica, by the way, and her team have done all the stuff that you see today. Thank you so much. people were working nonstop throughout the week. So thank you to all of you who have given so many hours. Okay, I'm done talking. You can take this home with you. So if you brought a truck today, load it up. If you didn't, just push it down Market Street. Just take it to your house. No, if you don't have a way to take it home, we'll get it to you during the week. All right, drum roll. We need a little drum roll for this. Okay. I can't believe I won this. No, okay. The winner is Gavin Bodie. Gavin Bodie. Congratulations, Stephen. That's his dad. Okay. Or happy Father's Day to your dad. Okay. All right. Hey, thanks so much. By the way, keep eating food. Like I said, Bobby will be up here if you want to meet and get something signed or just ask him a question. Have an incredible week. Be blessed, and we'll see you back here next week.
Valley Troy, it has been amazing being with you today. Now, before we leave and you head off to your day and I head off to mine, I want you to know a few things. The first is, if you were new with us today, I want you to text NEW to 937-358-6565 so that we can connect and get to know one another. If you need prayer, not just today, but maybe even throughout this week, you can also text the word prayer to 937-358-6565. And we have a team of people who will pray along with you. Oh, and don't forget to share the praise reports too. We love those moments when God has broken in and answered prayer, maybe even unexpectedly. So make sure you share those too. Friends, it has been an incredible pleasure to be with you today. Don't forget to like the Valley Troy page, share this post and others like it, and join us as we kick into 2022